So after I re-listened to this interview with Monica Lynn, I was like, wow, she really dropped some gems, and I may have to re-interview her and kind of clarify some of the things that she said in this interview that I promise will be life-changing. Welcome to Unfiltered with Ava. That's me, your host. Perpetually curious, I love interviewing intriguing people across the globe every chance I get. Okay, so everyone listening, this is Monica. And Monica, from what I understand, did you and I meet on Phoebe Kuhn's group, or how did we meet?
Yeah, the human design course.
Okay. All right. And what are you thinking of that while we're just right here?
Yeah.
Did you buy any of her big products or?
No, I was actually really new to Phoebe and human design. And then I just had heard a lot about human design and I thought, why not? I really liked her and she seemed like she knew a lot about it. So yeah, it was all really new to me.
How did you find her? Was it an ad, or how did you ever come across her herself?
Gosh, I'm trying to think. Like it must have been an ad. And then
Very interesting.
yeah, I can't really remember. You know how that goes. One
Well, I
click
think
leads to another.
no, I think for me it was an ad too. And I feel like you have to hand it to her. I mean, she appears to have her shit together, but you've not taken any courses with her though or anything?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. So I've done a couple of her courses. I've done a lot of her free stuff. Her free stuff is so incredible. Um, she talks about imposter syndrome and a lot of stuff about like self-worth. And I feel like that those are hard subjects to get across to other people sometimes, and they've almost become a cliche of themselves. So I know you are a coach, and from what I gathered, I don't know, are you kind of between business and a manifesting coach, or how would you?
Yeah, it was really tough, I think, for anyone that's kind of starting out because, it's like you've got to, you often hear like the finding your niche. Well, nobody likes to be put in a box, right? So it's like, like what do I really love? What am I really passionate about? Manifesting has been what got me to a lot of massive shifts in my life, I would say. Massive shifts in my life, the
Yeah.
manifestation
So it's
process.
something you love. I love manifestation too. And I used to kind of I was really, I totally feel you. I was going to do kind of a manifestation channel, and it wasn't, I didn't want to focus on just that, but it is just that, right? And you're talking about being put in a box and niching. And I think that's one thing that a lot of us, some people can really do one thing, right? Like a tarot reader, or there are people that literally like Roxy Talks and Jasmine Sear. Do you know them from the manifestation community?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's like two examples, like that is their life, right? But so for you, it's something that you like. So are you one of those people that, for me, whenever I have a school, and when I talk to my students about niching down, I'm really like, you're not really putting yourself in a box. You're just putting your best foot forward with the top 3 to 5 things that you excel at, right? Not,
Correct.
but I think people generally assume niche as a one and only, and that it's such a broad sweeping generalization. So if anyone's listening, women, when we say niche, in my opinion, I mean, it can be 3 to 5 things that you are incredible at, that you're incredibly passionate about, because not everyone is going to have like one thing. I mean, some of us just, our soul calls right to more.
Absolutely. So for me, I I really wanted to focus on, so my main thing that I do practice on and that I teach is so is actually the identity shift.
I
So
see that.
that yeah, so like that for me was able to help. I wanted to be able to help people with manifestation and really get to the groundwork. It was like, what's the foundation? It's not really starting from like where you are. And I think that that's what I like that I really, it's not I think, but that's what I really stand for. It's like I really want to help people really create the person that they envision. And a lot of the times it really starts with, you've got to start at the foundation. And you've got to look at, where am I coming from? What are those limiting beliefs? What's blocking me? What's standing in my way? What am I doing to block myself? right? So it's like, yeah, you want to create all these things, but how is your foundation? How is your relationship with yourself?
Yeah, and that you're totally right. I think that we go at manifestation also from like an external locus of control instead of being like being that person who has already received that basically what I would term the ideal self, as much as possible, right? And we're going to get into that with the interview, but that's really, really cool. And one thing that's interesting too is Phoebe also talks a little bit about identity, and it's important. So that's kind of like your signature trademark work, is just kind of like getting people into being now who they will be when they have what they want, kind of is that loosely the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's identity shift and magnifying the magic within. Exactly.
Okay. Do you want to say anything about magnifying the magic a little bit on that, since maybe people might be
Absolutely.
curious?
So a lot of the times we are looking at external. Okay. So even when we are, if we want to talk about, we'll just use the example of manifestation. So a lot of the times we're looking for that external first, the validation, right? The authority. And it's coming from a place of disempowerment, because if we are not creating that from the inside first, we're seeking external factors. So we're waiting for the, okay, now is the right timing. Okay, now you have the right money. Okay, or enough money. Now you have this, where it actually, that begins within first. Like it all starts within. So once you actually are like, okay, you realize it's like, I'm trying to up level. Okay, so when every time there's an up level, there's an identity shift. If you've never done it before, if you've never experienced having, the $10,000 months all the way to the $100,000 months, that's going to be a new level of you. So when I'm talking about magnifying the magic within, it's all about creating from where you're at, building that foundation and creating that on the inside first. It's got to always come from the inside first to then become a reflection of the outside world.
Right. I totally agree. And it's so simple. It's almost like stupid. And it's what we all miss. I really feel that. No matter how much we've improved, whatever, just fill in the blank in any category, our diet, our fitness, our relationship, we still default to that external locus of control. And that just most of us really don't understand, I feel, the concept of self-love. And one thing that Phoebe teaches, well, she and a teacher were talking like you and I are now, and they kind of bounce off of each other. And the girl she was talking to said self-love and boundaries are the solutions to all of your problems, but very few of us get that self-love piece. And part of that involves totally embracing the shadow for absolute unconditional self-love now, and total forgiveness of all of your perceived flaws and things that have held you back. And whenever you're saying, when we can get that self-love piece right and go inside, that we manifest inside out with our energy, essentially.
Yeah, because for me, I really do believe that like self-love is a devotion to ourselves and our purpose. So like when we are choosing that self-love, it's like we are choosing, no matter how many times the roadblocks come before us, no matter what the struggles that life or the external world brings, it's like it's staying the course of your purpose. And that is self-love.
Mm-hmm.
It's like no matter what comes up, it's like I'm choosing myself, and it's that devotion.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And again, I just did Phoebe's big human design for business, and it literally changed my life,
Mm.
but I also, I don't put her on a pedestal. One thing I really like about Phoebe is she really is really open about her flaws and all of that. But she talks about, how you just now said, staying true to your purpose, no matter what's going on, basically. And that's like a devotion and self-love. She really talks about like outside things, a fight with whoever, someone who criticize you, as a form of self-sabotage and a reason to kind of procrastinate and not stay, again, like you said, true to your purpose, right? And whenever we allow those outside distractions, it's kind of like a self-betrayal, that just because you had that fight with whatever is not a reason that you can't put yourself out there today and serve, right?
But I will say something interesting is that a lot of the times, and this one can be a really hard pill to swallow. I mean, I remember when I first even started looking at this and I was like, ouch. But a lot of the times, I mean, we are so powerful that a lot of the things that are even showing up in our lives, like those obstacles, are really just reflections of how we think, even maybe towards ourselves. And they are coming up for a reason. Like they're showing us, it's mirroring to us, maybe how we talk to ourselves, maybe how that we can take this situation, like that certain obstacle, and look at it and be like, where in my life am I thinking that way? Where in my life am I feeling that way about myself? Because the reality is that like we are all one, right? So like anything that's happening in front of us is just projecting on what could be those subconscious blocks, the unconsciousness, or just the things that need to come to light, like you said, with the shadow, and working through them. It's the same analogy if you want to say like the universe is always working for me, not against me. If we
Mhm.
look at it like like we're being attacked or like that, it's like, but can I step back for a moment, not take this personal, and try to shift through this and see why maybe this is coming up?
Yeah, yeah. And I think one thing like you're talking about, like the shadow, I think a lot of us aren't really in touch. I think a lot of us walking around really think that we're really aware, but there's a level that we're not, and it's kind of the deeper unconscious, like the shadow, and having our allowing the one thing that Phoebe taught me, and it's so liberating, is it's okay to be humiliated. It's okay to feel shame. We're not
Mm-hmm.
really given that permission, and most of us don't really, I think, even know what shame is, what it looks like, or what it feels like, or what it looks like to shame others or be shamed. There's a level of like unconsciousness that really hasn't been unlocked. But when we become aware, I think, of our humanness and get outside of our perfectionism, um,
Mm.
we can kind of stop making excuses, like you said, when this, when that. And I see really progressive women still do this, and I am guilty of it before this program. But I also did visibility coaching with Marie Alvarado. And these women like you are doing important, good work, and you're reaching the clients that you're supposed to go with. So let me go to the next question. And unless you had anything else to say about that.
No, that's okay.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about what you do. Can you say why you do it and how long you've been doing it?
Absolutely. So I really feel that I can relate to my clients because there were so many blocks that I had to get past on my own and that I had to go through. And I asked for years. I would pray, I know that I'm supposed to be doing something. I know that I just felt it, right? It was already inside of me, of course. I felt it, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. And I remember meditating one day in my apartment, and this was years ago in Los Angeles, and I was sitting there and I'm asking for this answer, and it was like, I want you to be love and light. And I remember being pissed off. I was like, what is that even supposed to mean? And I didn't grow up with any type of like religious background, with nothing. I was taught absolutely nothing when it came to all this. It was very much a journey of my own. So even when I heard that phrase for the first time, like love and light, I'm like, I was looking for an answer, right? I was looking like, oh, I want you to be a teacher, or you need to, something. And so I realize now, looking back after all those years, I mean, we're talking 15 plus 16 years, it was like, oh, it was the journey that I had to go on to then realize that this is what I'm supposed to now be helping other people with. And lo and behold, that's exactly what I found out with human design. Like that's
I mean, we
yeah.
generally, as coaches or just holistic providers, we generally teach the things that we know really well, that we've experienced, whether it was by choice or not, and just the things that we are adept at, that we naturally have an affinity for. And then the things that we have worked through, we're able to teach others, which is great. So on that note, what one piece of advice do you have for imposter syndrome?
So for imposter syndrome, I've always been a fan of fake it till you make it. Some people will say, no, I personally do. I feel like there's like I was saying, when there's that next level and it's calling you, and if you have never been to that next level before, you have to take on that next level. I think that, or I also say, like, borrow spirits, borrow it from spirit, like call upon your angels, ask God, like, hey, ask for that courage to borrow, like, hey, and like, I'm not this person yet. I'm not like, I don't feel this way. And it's like, if you don't have that courage yet, borrow the courage, ask to put me in a position where I feel that I am, capable. And I'll just share a quick example. Like, when I started doing my coaching, like, I had never been an entrepreneur before. I had never run a business. I had never done any of those things. But how was I ever going to become that if I never started? So yeah, the imposter syndrome could take over and say, well, of course, and it did try, the ego, like, well, who are you? You've never run a business. You've never done these things before. But then I counterintuited it with, yeah, well, I have to start somewhere. Right.
And that's wise. So it's a little bit of playing pretend, or just, make believe, and kind of garnering those childlike qualities, and still like believing and not being, kind of like the opposite, right? Which would be bitter and negative. And then what was the last part that you said? Oh, asking for the courage. So you're communicating with spirit or your higher power, and just not going alone, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
And it's funny because I have really moved beyond imposter syndrome, but I used to know it really well, which is really funny to me, because when I asked you that question, I asked because I know it's a huge concern. It's really hot right now, and it's really epidemic, and I'm really, really happy that have moved beyond it. So when I asked you and I realized I'm listening to the answer, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a great answer. Because isn't it funny how when we move past things, sometimes it's hard to go back to feel that, because we've elevated beyond it, right? And as a coach, you have to remember kind of like where you're at now is not where your client is. So you have to kind of go back there and remember, what it was like to empathize and get them through it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what one piece of advice do you have for the visibility wound or fear of being seen?
What one piece of advice as far as to be seen, like for it to
The
okay to
fear,
be seen?
well, a lot of people have a visibility wound, and it's like with human design, if you know your child's type, you're able to encourage it better. But so many kids were just shut up, be quiet, or just whatever, right?
Yeah.
But people who have a fear of being seen, or they have a visibility wound, and they can't bring themselves really to put themselves out there. It's kind of like, well, I will after I lose 5 pounds. I'm doing it next week after this, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm sure.
Yes. Okay. I got it. Yeah. So it's the same as I was kind of saying before. Like, you have to you have to do it. That's one of my things that I work with my clients. It's like, it doesn't anything ever seem so much more scary than when we just do it. Like the monster under the bed. It's like when you look and it's like, oh my God, it was a stuffed animal. Of course it seems so much bigger and scarier in our heads. But the thing is, it's not going to get easier unless you got to have the courage. You got to put the one foot in front of the other. Like, of course it's going to be scary. I mean, you'll hear, even actors and actresses, or, singers, they can go on the stage for the 100th time, and they still get nervous. They still get the butterflies in their stomach. And that's just meeting faith with fear, and I would also say that, as far as like afraid of being seen, it is really, I think it's a lot of the time that we're going through right now. And we've been so afraid to show our light. We've been so afraid to step up, to fear of judgment, fear of what other people are going to think. Oh, my family's never seen me this way before, though. My family's never seen me as successful. They've never seen this version of me. Well, that is a part of the old paradigm. If you're stepping into your next level, if you're stepping into the new paradigm, the way showers, and if that's what you are desiring, the way showers, it never said it was going to be easy. It always said it was gonna, the people who went where no one else went before was always, you were the light in the darkness. You made the path. There was no path before. So yeah. That's part of the journey, though. That's part of like the excitement. If it was easy, it wouldn't, it's like, it kind of takes a little bit away from it. So just knowing that you get to do what you want to do.
Right. And earlier when you're talking about up leveling kind of, or as I don't think up leveling was the right word. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
What was that concept?
It's like, it's just like up leveling. Like there's always,
Okay.
there's always a new level.
Okay. So there's a quote that says, imagine your highest and best self and start showing up as her. I always find that really inspiring. And then, I'm being like, I'm not doing it. Like that's what you want to do, right? Always kind of striving to be your highest and best self. And with, earlier we were talking about a quote. You were saying like, all things work for my good and everything's happening for me, not to me. I know Shefali Salisbury taught that, and it's really made its way around. And that's a really hard thing to remember sometimes. And just kind of trusting that the obstacle is the way and not being consistent, right? So let's see here. On being seen, my visibility coach, Marie Alvarado, she said, this really boils down to trusting in your own divine feminine leadership, and that your voice is important, like you said, and not running away from our light. And, Phoebe talks about allowing yourself to redefine yourself and giving yourself permission that you don't have to be the way that you were, which we already kind of know, but I mean, really taking that full throttle and being like, I'm changing today and it's okay for me to change. And anyone who wants to discredit or say that I can't change, like they're not relevant. Right. But the last thing I want to say that Marie would say is that, we have to allow ourselves to be seen in the process of our growth and being imperfect, and like, that's it. That's the answer. Cause you're never going to be where you think that you should be. And you should embrace yourself now. And just like you said, do it. And some of this,
I would also add that that's where it really helps to have support. Because I think that you can attest, I've already heard you saying like you work with certain people.
yeah.
I also did not go in it alone. Like I definitely had support when I first started. When I quit my 9 to 5 job and I decided to start my own business, like I did not go at it alone. I myself hired a coach, and I definitely had the support. So I'm not telling anybody, I'm not telling anybody it's like, put your blinders on and just like jump in the deep end. It's like and that's been my mantra ever since, is I get to be supported. That's been a huge mantra for me. And it's been true even when it didn't seem like I could, but I just said that was like my non-negotiable with the universe. It's like, if this is what you want me to do, then I get to be supported, and it's worked ever since.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to also talk to you about. I think a lot of women and professionals, especially people like you said that are maybe new to the industry, that are just learning how to become a holistic provider, they don't know how much support leaders have had to become leaders, right? And we're always kind of surprised by like, you spent what on coaching, but it did what? Oh, wow, it was really worth it. But I would say with a disclaimer, you have to I feel like people should kind of study the coaches around a little bit, and because it's really easy to get like, googly eyes, and it might not be the right coach.
Oh yeah, that's a whole nother episode.
Right. But you really have to trust. Yeah. You're like,
yeah, that's gonna be a whole, absolutely. I'm just saying that don't feel like, if like I'm just saying that it's okay to be supported. Like that.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is kind of similar, but a little different. What one piece of advice do you have for women who are afraid to put themselves out there because they're afraid of haters and criticism? I know, like, was that kind of the same answer that you said before?
Well, I would just pinpoint on that everybody, like nobody is ever always gonna like you. I was thinking about this. Like, imagine Taylor Swift recently came out with an album, right? I think she like crashed the box offices. It was the highest, like I don't even remember the number. It was like a couple $100 million. Like it was insane. And then like 2 days later, I remember seeing a post in this girl being like, I don't know, I might be the only one, but like I don't like Taylor Swift. And I was like, there you go. No matter how big you get, no matter how, like, there are going to be people who talk and don't like you. And that's just the way it is. And the more that the quicker that we can just accept that and like keep doing our own thing, I think it would like, is like the least, then the less blocks that we get.
Right. It's kind of like Phoebe really helped me with that. She's just like, you get a payoff from your haters and they get a payoff from you. And there's no dark without light and there's no light without dark. And I have like that channel and I'm just like that's my son. And I'm just like, okay, cool. I can accept that. Finally, I can process this. And she's just like, you're honestly, you're nobody without haters. Like, like Cardi B, thank your haters. And I'm not even like talking about my music genres or what I like at all. I don't know her albums, but I'm just saying she's just like, I want to thank my haters. And it's kind of like joking too, but at the same time, like you're right, nobody is going to like you all of the time. And, Phoebe's just like, if you're not triggering people and kind of, waking them up and getting a light bulb going or just creating some kind of attention, then you're not being true to yourself. That's part of the process. There's going to be people that love you, people that hate you, people that don't care. And that's it. And like you said, the sooner that you accept it, it's a lot easier, I think, to go into your visibility.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you think people pleasing and perfectionism are multi-generational and societal problems at large, especially for women folk?
Well, yeah, I mean, I talk about this often too, because it's like, that's just the way that our world was. And I mean, I think a lot of people would agree that it's changing. And it's the conditioning of society. And that, as women, we were, as young girls, we're taught to like be nice and be quiet and get along and to people please. And even if we get bad vibes from somebody, it was like, oh, you be nice to that gentleman, and it's like, as being in tune as we are, it's like, no, but I was getting bad vibes from him, and we don't know that when we're young. It's just the way that we're taught. So yeah, I think it's very prevalent in today's day, but I'm so happy that so many of us are waking up to that and being like, we don't have to listen to past generations. We don't have to listen to that social conditioning any longer. We don't have to be the good girl. And gosh, we don't have to people please. That was a huge one, but wow, it's powerful when you take that back.
It was huge for me too. And that's one thing that I learned with Phoebe and her team was just I think so many of us are not even aware of our perfectionism and people pleasing tendencies. And it's just like so ingrained in the parental programming and societal conditioning that it's just a given. And for anyone listening, Sonia Choquette, look her up on Instagram. She does a lot of lives and she's always talking about like 100% listening to your vibes no matter what. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And she's so full of light. So look her up and let's talk about what are your daily non-negotiables as a woman that might inspire our listeners or my listeners.
Yeah, so one of them I kind of shared a little bit earlier was I get to be supported. That for me was and is very, very big. And now listen, that doesn't mean just also like a coach. It means like I get to be supported. For example, like I have two young, I started my business while I was like 6 months pregnant with a 4-year-old. Now my daughter's 9 months old and my son's 5. And there were many times where I could have been like, oh, this is too challenging, but when I also say like I get to be supported, it means like I get to hire help so that I can also stay true to myself, right? That's that self-love. So that was really big for me, and just not even ways of a coach, but in saying other ways in life, like I get to be supported. Also, for example, like men, God bless them, but they can, like a lot of times women a lot of women have like the martyr archetype and, oh, well, nobody's going to do things the way that I can, no one's going to cook the dinner and clean the house and they're not going to be able to do things as good as me. So I'm just going to do everything. So I'm just going to run the business. I'm going to run the home. I'm going to run the kids and take care of the school. It's like, no. Like talk about hitting burnout like 2.0, but saying like, for me, it was a big one because I was also didn't want to ruffle any feathers and wanted to be that way. But when I kind of like took myself into the power situation, I was like, I let it know that it was okay that everything maybe wasn't perfect, but set my boundaries with my husband from the beginning, letting him know like, hey, I'm taking my time out to do this. This is what's important for me. Like my time in the morning, like whether it's prayer, meditation, like it was just really setting those boundaries was another really important thing. And I think that that's really important for women to hear, is that they don't have to be like super women. Like they don't have to be the superheroes. They don't, like that martyr archetype runs so strong because it was what we were also conditioned for so many decades, right? Like we look back at the generation of like, your grandmothers, and that's all they knew was to take care, right? To do everything and to take care of the family. And now that times are shifting and us women are being called into these higher positions, it's like navigating between the two. But you can also be the entrepreneur, and you can also enjoy motherhood at the same time. Sorry, I got off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I think that's really, really important for women to hear, that it doesn't have to be this or that it can also be both.
Mhm. No, I agree completely. I've had older generations of women say this linear, you can have it all, just not all at the same time. And it's annoying to me. Life isn't waiting for anybody, and it's time to live it. And the other thing too is if you're creating jobs by having people help you, because sometimes like there are different kinds of people with different purposes, and not everybody is going to have as much on their plate as you do. And those people can help you manage that. And should be no guilt or shame in it. You're helping create jobs. People need jobs, and you need support. If that's, if you're a divine feminine leader. So important stuff. Don't be afraid to ask for help or get it or pay for it. So I know for myself, I have kind of like the perfect schedule and time management. And it's sad how long it took me to figure that out, because it always felt like unmanageable. And no matter how many things I tried to cut out, it was still too much. And I had to get really serious with myself and my time, and just being like, okay, if you actually want to accomplish the things that you're saying you want to accomplish, then you are actually going to have to manage your time, pretty strictly. But there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, some people thrive on schedules, and other people, they don't need that because they're not doing as much and they don't have to be as vigilant, right? And that's fine. But if you are and you do, here's my question. Do you do everything on your schedule, or everything you say you want to do and commit to every day? Or do you foul up and just kind of like keep going, not giving up? And for me, I feel like it's practicing, it's like you don't give up, and you get better every day. You learn something new every day, and you improve that commitment. But are you one of those women who are like, have you nailed it? Or are you still kind of, working your way through it?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And that's one thing though, is I don't strive for perfection. I'm not like, I don't expect that of myself. But I do strive to always do my best. And as long as I know that we know when we're cheating. We can't fool anybody. It's just like, nobody cares if you're on your diet and you eat the donut. Like, you're cheating yourself. Like nobody's there. Nobody's gonna come save you in that way. But so I would say that for me, it's really about, I'm a list maker, also by human design. I'm a profile that like, I like to make lists. And what I do is I'll usually like highlight like what has to get done today. What must I do today? And then, highlight those things. Those are the ones that I'm going after. And then it's like, now what would be great if I got accomplished today, and what can be left for tomorrow? So that's really my routine. But yeah, I'm still mastering time, because like I said, as my, as with kids, I think it always kind of changes, I mean, and again, like I'm just talking about that because that's my experience. Right. But I think that, yeah, it's just doing the best that we can, and not expecting perfection.
Right. And that's one thing that I want to mention. Phoebe actually says that too. And she's just like, I'm doing my best, and that's good enough, like as an affirmation. And that's really also something simple. It's very, very liberating. And also just the idea that you can make money and earn a living just being yourself, and giving up all of the striving. And, she throws perfectionism out the window. Her lighting can be terrible, and she shows up with wet hair. I love it. It's so liberating. Imperfection is and I'm okay enough now, right? It's so liberating. And that's what we would want for our children. We would want them to feel like enough as they are. These ideas of perfectionism, I don't know if it is from the media or I have no idea where it came from, media and parental conditioning, but whenever we allow ourselves to just not be perfect and be like, this is how it is, this is who I am, and whatever, it's liberating, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I really like how you said, for me with my schedule, I'm just like, okay, I'm 20 minutes late on this, but I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to give up. And like you said, perfectionism, it's just, guys, goodbye, break up with it.
Yeah.
So we've only got a couple more questions here. We're going to go a little bit more personal. What does your diet consist of? If I'm coming over for dinner, like what are we having? What are your staples?
Um, well, I'm pretty much like naturally a lean eater. I also suggest for people, if you want to find out like what's good for you, is getting to know your blood type. So your blood type actually reveals like a lot of like what's really healthy for you naturally. Have you ever done that? Have you ever looked at your
So
blood type?
I have an online school for holistic medicine. We have like 1,200 courses in it. And we specialize in advanced holistic nutrition, clinical herbalism, traditional naturopathy, spiritual medicine, and functional blood chemistry. So I know about this blood type book. I know it was written by a licensed naturopath. And I have to say, for me, it's been totally debunked because it was inconsistent. And I feel that certain diets really do benefit a majority of people, even though we are bio individual, which might mean a certain food might bother someone, but in general, an overall diet, I feel 99% of people would benefit from a general diet. Like everybody benefits from not eating sugar, right? But
Yes.
I don't believe in that book at all.
Oh, okay.
I believe in food sensitivity testing by Cyrax. That's what functional blood chemistry is, and that's also for my private practice. I help my clients with predictive autoimmunity and symptom reversal. And you find that out by testing the blood, testing the urine, testing the saliva. And it's just called functional medicine. So that book, yeah, I personally don't, but if you've had a good experience with it, I mean, it like you said before, some things might be for some people and some things might not be for other people. So if you're interested, I mean, you should check that book out. It's on Amazon. It's been revised probably at least 2 or 3 times. I mean, it's been around for about 15 or 20 years. Did you know?
No, no, I had just I was like for some reason, and yeah, you then if you know like on another knowledge level, that was just a very basic thing for me. And I found that a lot of people that I would just randomly ask if they were having like stomach issues, if they were eating certain foods. And I am by no means like a health educator, but I just did find it was interesting. I found it was interesting, like going back to my blood type, that it was like these are like the nuts and berries type of person. Like it's like a very, craves red meat. And I would often say that. And I was like, my body, like my iron, would tend to get low. And it's like, but I'm just, and some people would say like that's not good for you. So I mean it can go into a whole nother thing, but for me it just seemed to
Like,
like kind of spot
that's
on for
cool.
me.
What is your blood type, if I may ask?
Yeah, so
I'm
I'm
A
O
positive.
positive.
What is it?
O
Oh,
positive.
and I'm A positive. My dad, I believe, I think he's an O positive too, or I can't remember. Maybe it's O negative because I think it might be rare. But blood type is really fascinating, and we teach a lot about that in the school. Oh my gosh, it's incredible, the blood itself.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons I also didn't like that book is like, oh, it's a really sweeping generalization for 4 blood types, oh, then these people should be vegetarian. And I feel like that's way too danger. It gets into danger and like blanket statements. But it's cool that you were interested in it because it is interesting.
Now,
Um,
mind you, I did not read the book though, so I don't want to say I didn't read the book. It was just something that I had seen online, like about blood types and that. And that's it. But it was definitely like not a book.
okay.
But to just answer
Okay.
the question, I would say simple, like vegetables, like a green leaf, like a chicken or something like
Okay.
that. And I love sushi.
Cool. So we have like a lean protein and a healthy vegetable. That sounds good. Okay. So you said that you've been married and you have
Mhm.
a 9 month old and a 4.5 year old. And just
5-year-old,
how
yeah.
long have you been married?
So I've been married, let's see, we got married. Oh, well, I'll share a little something. So he was my high school sweetheart, and we met when I was 14 years old. And it was interesting because I always say, and I would like tell him, like, I ended up leaving. I was originally from Michigan. I left Michigan. I went off to the West Coast, Los Angeles, for about 14, 15 years. and made my way when I made my way back to Michigan. And he had joked with me that he's like, well, I was waiting for you this whole time. I just didn't think that you would take this long. And I joked with him saying that, well, I had to go on this long journey, and I wasn't ready for a good relationship. You know, he came from a good family. He came from, you know, it was solid, and that didn't feel comfortable for me at my young age. You know, I had a lot of things that I had to work out myself. So here we are. We finally got married. It's only been about a year and a half. I had my son with another man, and then we got married and had our daughter.
Well, congratulations. That's a new
Thank
marriage. That's
you.
wonderful. That's a beautiful
Yeah.
story. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love it. Okay, so our last question is, what one last piece of advice would you like to give or share with our listeners that might be life-changing?
Yeah, so I would just encourage anybody who is listening that you know, follow your heart, follow your passion. Whatever, you know, whatever you are desiring is waiting for you on another timeline. Like it's there, it's already there. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. You know, find your flock, find your people, find the people who inspire you and encourage you, whether it's on podcasts, on the internet. If you can, you know, be friends with them, always I would say like stay close to those people because they really keep the fuel and the passion ignited within you if you're not surrounded by that on an everyday basis. And just you know, and be creative with your life. Know that you get to create the life that you want and have fun.
Mhm. That sounds wonderful. And how can people find you and connect with you?
So I am Monica Lynn Coaching on Instagram. And then also my Facebook group is Identity Shift, Magnifying the Magic Within.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for your time today and your patience.
No problem. See, we stuck with it.
Oh, we did, and we got it done. It was fun. I learned a lot. You reminded me of a lot of stuff. It's just so easy, like you said, with the support system. We really neglect to create a support system for ourselves, and we just tend to isolate ourselves. And good people that are like, you know, our tribe or whatever, just reground us and remind us, you know, perfectionism is trash. All that.
Yeah. And you're
Everything you heard.
1-3, right?
Excuse me?
Are you a 1-3 profile?
I'm a 2-4.
You're a 2-4. So I
Yeah.
remember you posting about something. Is the two, what is it? Like your information.
Maybe. I think that the 3 or the 5 is information, but I could be wrong. I'm the hermit opportunist. So I'm like totally introverted and totally extroverted.
Huh. I could have swore like that's what, like one of the ways that I found you because you were like you had came up with something really awesome and you were like sharing it. You were like posting about it
Oh,
and
I
that's how we
remember I posted all of my gates and I was giving her a hard time for not doing anything good on gate 1.
Oh, that's what it was because yeah, and I'm gate 1. That's my son.
Oh, you do?
Yes. So that's
Oh.
why, okay, because you were like, yes, you were giving her a hard time about gate 1. And I'm like, yeah, like what's up with gate 1? It was 45 seconds.
So I have since, you know, researched it. Did you learn anything about it?
Okay, so ironically, like I got into the course and I figured even though I'm so hectic right now with my schedule, I'm like, I'll have it forever, right? Because I do want to learn it. So I haven't really got a
Okay.
chance to really jump in, but anything, like I said, if you want to share something quick on one, yeah, in case anyone else is
I
too.
mean, yeah. So basically, gate 1. I mean, people that are listening to probably have no idea what it is, but it's this thing called human design. And if you're familiar with it, there's different gates and channels. And there's this one called gate 1. And to me, you know, gate 1, I mean, that should be somewhat significant. It's the first number. And it's basically, you know, she had made a joke and the programmer, she's like, well, unless you're a gate 1, and she called them basically content factory, right? And I'm like, that's so insulting. I'm like, I have visibility wounds. And I'm like, do I have a lot of content? And I really do have content coming out of my ears. And it's a lot to manage, and you can do it if you really want to do it, but you really should only commit to that which you really love. So you're not, and what will happen basically is what you don't love will fall off anyway. But with gate 1, it's just like gate of communication and like passions. And we're meant to be like sharing, like that really is I mean, you can't help it. I mean, if you were born to be a leader, you have to come to terms with that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I will talk to you and I will let you know when this is published.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us today. For more info about me or the podcast, visit me online through my private practice, Luminous Health Miami, at luminous.miami. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe.